Benjamin André. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cozy Cloud, a French startup. And the title of my intervention is a kind of leakage. It's a spoiler, because Cozy Cloud is a personal storage, but mainly a personal cloud. And I will explain why we put a lot of emphasis on this point, on the difference between a personal storage and a personal cloud. Few elements about Cozy. I co-founded Cozy Cloud in 2012. We raised a bit more than 5 million euros. We are more than 20. In our direction team, there is also Tristan Nito with me, who is the founder of Mozilla Europe. And we are working with all those companies and some others even. But we will not talk about this today. So, personal cloud, personal storage, why? To understand the anatomy of what we have done, you have to understand our assumptions, the reason why we decided to develop Cozy this way. So, our first two assumptions is we want more services as a user, and the whole fuel of the digital economy is that as users we expect more services, more smart services, more proactive, more personalized, more smart services. And that's the reason why each time a new service pop-ups, we jump onto those new usages. And the second assumption is that digital services relevance comes from 2 points. First, the frictionless user experience. It's easy. It's synchronized with your phone. It's smart. You take a photo. This photo is immediately online. You can share it with your contact list. There's this seamless user experience, which is key, and which is the first reason why you adopt or not a digital service. And the second axe, the second reason why you are keen on using digital services are the mashups between data. The strength of an application such as Uber is to be able to cross the data between a market composed of users, people looking for a ride, and people who can offer a ride. And because you cross those data, you bring value to people. It's the same reason for Facebook, Google. You can take Airbnb. Every digital service is at its core based on the fact that they cross data that was difficult to cross previously in the pre-digital area. So those two assumptions leads me to two barriers, two difficulties. First, today data are walled garden because data are so important for the big platforms. They do not make it easy to get the data back. Even if you have some Google APIs, you will notice that, for instance, in my case, when I connect to the APIs from a data center hosted by OVH, well, I'm blacklisted. So you have APIs, but you cannot connect. And I asked to Google, why do you blacklist those servers? And they never answered me. So they are not keen on sharing your data. They want to keep your data in their walled garden. And I mentioned the internet platforms, but you have many other places where you have data. You have data on each of your vendors, electricity providers, in your banks, in your administrations, public sectors, etc. are holding some of your data, and it's not easy to mash up data. Second barrier is that you need trust. As a user, in a world where our decisions are more and more driven by data, the choice of your transport mean, of your vocation, of any thing you need to buy, the way you go somewhere, is determined by some of your data. And people who will hold your data will have a great power on you. And little by little, this power will be so important that it will be unsustainable to imagine a world where few actors will know everything about you as an individual. This fluidity requires trust, and this is a contradiction, because in one hand you want more fluidity with your data, and in the other hand you will be more and more keen on being sure that your data is not used against your interest. And those two needs are creating an opposition. And for this, there are two possibilities. First, there is a picture where you can imagine that each data holder, each data silo manage user consent to exchange data. So in this world of interoperability and consent management, keywords are APIs, are protocols, agreements, are laws. But from my point of view, the challenges so that this world happen are very huge, both from a technical point of view and from an economic point of view, because you need so many agreements between so many actors who have so many opposite interests that it's difficult to imagine that this world will happen quickly. And there's another approach, which is to say, well, there is one entity who is legitimate to federate the data. It's the user himself. Each of us, as an individual, are legitimate to gather all our data and to break the walls, to break the silos between our data in order to benefit of more fluidity between our data, so that we can have what I mentioned here, more smart services because of a user experience more frictionless and more data mashups. And that's the approach of personal cloud, which is composed of two very important points. First, personal data storage, and this is the starting point. So in your personal cloud, you definitely have a personal data storage where you can aggregate all your data coming from all your digital third parties. And second, you also have on this personal cloud an ecosystem of personal apps. And this is the idea. Your personal cloud can be hosted anywhere. It's a server. It can be hosted at home on any board. Today, this kind of board is very cheap. So you can have your personal cloud hosted at home. It can be hosted by a third party you trust. It could be hosted by your bank, by a hosting company such as OVH, which is a big and famous data center provider in Europe, and your personal cloud, wherever you decide to host it, will access to all the data coming from all your silos. The slide is cut, so I think there's a problem in the video. And you can aggregate here in your personal cloud all your data, and then have more usage of your data. So what is our approach? And the best is to jump on the demo. And on this point, I hope that the Wi-Fi is better than it was 5 minutes ago. So here I'm connected to my own personal cloud. This one is hosted by OVH in France. I can connect to my personal cloud by putting my login. Here I reach the home from where I can access to all the services I have deployed on my personal cloud. To install a new service, you have a marketplace from where you can access to all the apps that third parties have developed, exactly in the same way as you know on your smartphone. you can add, for instance, a photo application which will require rights to access to this or this data. And if you agree, you say, okay, install, and then your personal cloud will get the binary, the algorithm of the service, will download it and install it on your personal cloud, so that this service will be able locally on your personal cloud to access to the data and to provide the service, machine up the data. To make a quick example, I like to use the bank account, which is a bank aggregator. You can connect to any of your banks. Today we can connect to 23 banks, mainly French banks, but it's open source, so anyone can add its own connector to any bank. And if you want to connect to Deutsche Bank, you can add your login. And first difference with a classical bank aggregator, this login will not be given to anyone else than your own personal cloud. It will go on your own device, on your own server. It is not given to any third party who says, I'm a SaaS service and you can trust me. So you keep your login, I would say, at home. And then your personal cloud will connect to your banks and aggregate all the data coming from all your banks on the same screen. First difference. Second difference is that on each of your expense or income, you can make a link with another data which is stored on your personal cloud. For instance, SNCF is the French railway provider. So if you buy a ticket with SNCF, this ticket will be sent to you by mail, and this mail is on your personal cloud. So your system can make a link between your expense and your invoice automatically, because the two data are linked. So it can open your mail where you have the train ticket that you bought and that we saw there. Here, SFR is a French telecom company, so you can also have connectors grabbing your invoices online to store them on your personal cloud, and then creating a link automatically between your expense and your invoice. But as you can see, this invoice is not very sexy, I would say. It's a long list of phone numbers which doesn't mean anything to anyone. So imagine that instead of opening a static PDF, you had opened an application provided by your vendor, by here SFR. Then this application could locally cross this phone number with your contact list that your vendor doesn't have. And here your vendor could provide you a name instead of a list of phone number. And I would say that this vendor here, SFR, gain into intimacy with you without that you have to provide him your data. Your data, your contact list remain on your personal cloud, and the mashup, the access to the data is made locally. The data is never sent to SFR. And that's what we have done, for instance, with EDF. EDF is the French electricity provider. You have the expense, and in one click, you can open the EDF application, where you can have services that the EDF application, that the EDF user account cannot provide when it is hosted by EDF. Because here, the application that you host here locally can access, for instance, to the data coming from Nest, the thermostat, the connected thermostat from Google. And whereas Google's API does not allow EDF to connect to his API. Here, it's the user himself who connects to the Google APIs. You have a long list of connectors, and you have Nest somewhere here. And if you put your credentials, you get your data back on your personal cloud, and then your vendors can provide locally services using sensitive data without that you have to send this vendor your data. And this kind of usage can be extended to any kind of data. For instance, I took a photo 1 moment ago of the audience. This photo was taken from with my phone. So in the file application, like Dropbox, I will find the photo I have just taken here in the room. And this photo can be used then by any application. For instance, your contact application, you can use your photo without having to download and re-upload your photo. Today, when your photo is in Facebook, it's nowhere else. Here, any application can access your photo so that you can use it here in your contact or in your application file. Any data can be used by any application on your personal cloud without that you have to download and re-upload data. It's the same here. For instance, when you take a note, this note taken application is a kind of Evernote, but you can insert a task. So this task could be visit Helsinki. In the right pane, I open the task to-do application. And in my to-do application, an application developed by someone who doesn't know the developer of the note-taken application, you can see your task, visit Helsinki. And if I modify Helsinki, this task is updated in real time in my note. The two applications are working together. You have a frictionless user experience because all your applications are working together around your data. You don't have silos around your data. All services are working together for your interest without that you have to send your data to end vendors. So that's the big points. So I come back to the slides to end this talk. And this is the vision. Your personal cloud is your center of gravity of your personal digital life, enabling the aggregation of all the data of all your digital third parties. Here are a few hints, but I will not go in detail. It will be too long. And I will be also quick on the technology part. I will answer to questions later on if you have some questions. What is interesting in this slide about the architecture is that you can see that your Cozy instance, your server, your personal server, has two important layers. The first layer is the data layer, which is your personal data storage, which provides you a lot of services around data for apps. So there's an index, you will compute some mini pictures of each of your pictures, we extract data from your music, and all those data storage are services provided to apps, which is the second layer. And this is the point on which I want to insist, is that from our point of view, personal data storage must be coupled with some personal apps running on your device, on your premise, so that you can control them. If you only aggregate all your data and then give to many third parties access to your data, you will give always more access to always more people, exactly as on your phone. Each of your app on your phone always request more and more rights. Because to provide more relevant services, they need always more rights, and it will be the same. If you only have a personal data storage, you will be progressively pushed to give access to always more people. Here, you can have the control because the apps are working under your control. What I like to say is that it's not the data who comes to the service, it's the service which comes to the data. And the conclusion, it's all about service and usages. The reason why there is a relevance to aggregate the data is that you will be able to have more services and usage. From our point of view, privacy is a requirement. it's not an end. The reason why you need to enforce security and privacy is that it's a requirement to provide fluidity around your data. Personal storage is not enough. You need a personal app ecosystem, and that's the difference between a personal storage and a personal cloud. It must be definitely open source. Open source is key for, in one hand, trust and security, and in the other hand, for hackability and growth of your ecosystem. And if you want, last point, but very important, is the business model. So I did not mention our business model, and if you want more details, come at 2 o'clock. There is in the workshop room, there is I give another talk about the business model. That's it. Thank you for your attention. And last point, after the conclusion, it may sound crazy, and I insist on the fact that it may sound a bit utopian to invert the cloud model. I like to remind that in 1977, the founder of DEC said that never anyone would want a computer at home. And what is interesting is not that he made a mistake, is that he made this mistake in 1977, which is the year when Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak launched the Apple I, because they decided that DEC was completely wrong, and they launched the first personal computer. And we say that in the same way that in the early 80s there was this paradigm shift between computer mainframes and personal computer PCs, today all the PCs are joining, so that we have the same kind of paradigm shift between cloud and personal cloud. Thank you.